Good evening to you all. We are so excited to welcome all of you to EWB Thursday webinars, and we welcome our audience who are joining via Zoom and who are watching us on Facebook. And we call this Thursday EWB webinar series, we call it Investment Time. So it means if everybody, all the educators invest at least 1 hour time of their free time for professional development. So it will be doubly rewarding in a very nearest future. And every time we invite outstanding guests and speakers to our webinar series. And as usual, our guest speakers are foreign specialists and also local professionals who are ready to share their experience, knowledge, and expertise and generously provide this webinar by their presentation and, of course, by their first-hand experience. And today we are double excited to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Gena Bennet from the US. And this is the first time of her to join EWB series. And we believe that many more are going to come soon. And of course, let me introduce our speaker to you, Dr. Bennett. She has over 25 years of experience teaching, facilitating, and developing English language instruction and professional development, focusing on combining a strong theoretical foundation with practical expertise. She has designed, developed, and delivered 20 plus online, face-to-face, and blended projects, contributing to 2,000 hours of professional development training. Taught nearly 100 sections of online and face-to-face graduate and undergraduate courses, and taught English as a second language to thousands of students from tens of countries in multiple contexts. Her areas of interest include corpus linguistics, assessment, grammar, and educational technology. And today she's going to share about using AI to create accurate and useful materials for the L2 writing classroom. So the topic is super exciting, and we welcome everybody to join and participate actively and to enjoy the whole presentation. And of course, yes, to ask questions to our speaker today. And with great pleasure, I'm giving the floor to Dr. Gena Bennet. Over to you. Thank you so much.
I had to unmute myself. Thank you so much, Nasiba. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It is so nice to be able to meet with you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and invest in your professional development. I am going to be talking about using AI to create accurate and useful materials for the L2 writing classroom. So it's a pretty focused, specific topic, but I think you will find it helpful when you are teaching writing. This is just an overview of me, both personally and professionally, all of the places that I've lived, things I like to do in my spare time, my family. I just think it's helpful to start with something like this. So we kind of connect on a personal level. If you have any questions, feel free to ask about that. So this is a list of things that Gen AI in particular, generative AI in particular, can do. You have probably seen these things advertised or heard people say, Gen AI can change your life. It can do all the things for you. And these things, plus many others, you may have seen. And I think it's true that Gen AI can do all of these tasks. The question, though, is, well, there's two questions. Can Gen AI do these tasks well? Yes, it can do the tasks, but can it do them well? And also, should Gen AI do these tasks for us as teachers. So while it's possible that Gen AI can do many, many, many things, maybe it can't do them very well. And maybe we shouldn't ask it to do them for us. So I think one of the most important questions when we're talking about AI is Gen AI the right tool? Yes, Gen AI can do many, many, many amazing things. But is it always the right tool? And the answer is no. It is not always the right tool. But there are some things that the answer is yes, it is the right tool. It's a fantastic tool. And that's what we are going to be talking about today when the answer is yes for teaching L2 writing. But I have two questions for you in a poll that I would just like to get your opinion on. So, is Gen AI just another educational technology tool teachers can use in the classroom? So, yes, no, or you can say you're not sure. If you're not sure, that is a perfectly acceptable answer. And then the second question is similar, but using AI in the classroom is different than using other educational technology. So, yes, no, or not sure. And it's perfectly okay if you're not sure. So I give you a minute to think about and respond to the questions. Looks like we have about 33% of you answering the questions. If we could get a couple more participants to answer the questions, that would be great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes.
What about the second question? Good evening.
Yes, using AI in the classroom is different than using other educational technology. Yeah. Okay. So that's most everyone has answered. Thank you. We see that most of you say 75% of you say yes to the first question. Gen AI is just another educational technology tool teachers can use in the classroom. And a few of you aren't sure. Again, perfectly acceptable answer. In fact, if this is your answer, this is the right place for you to be. So most of you agree. However, interestingly enough, on the second question, it's kind of a mixed answer. Um, about a third of you say that using AI in the classroom is different than using other educational technology. And about a third of you say that it's not different, it's the same. And these are really kind of the same question, but it's interesting how we give different answers depending on how we're thinking about it. Is Gen AI just another technology tool? And then if that's the case, it would not be different using it in the classroom. Although many of you do think it is just another ed tech tool, some of you think that it is different than other tools in the classroom. So thank you for this, for giving your opinions here and letting me know where you stand about using Gen AI as a particular ed tech tool in the classroom. Um, when we think about ed tech, educational technology, it's been around for a really long time, right? It's nothing new, ed tech. And we've always thought about language learning potential should be the central criterion if we're going to use ed tech. And as we are language teachers, particularly English language teachers, we want to think about input, output, tasks supported, and interaction that happens. These are among the central criteria that we would want to consider when we're using EdTech, because if language learning is not at the center of the technology, then we probably don't need to use that technology. Now, in language teaching, we also really have to attend to affective considerations as well. So sometimes technology motivates our students. So even if there's no input or output or interaction, the motivation that can come from EdTech can be very beneficial to us as language teachers. So we don't want to overlook that benefit. And when we think about using EdTech, we should think about what's called the TPAC model. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the TPAC model, but it is a framework for integrating technology into the classroom. It consists of 3 distinct types of knowledge, but then also considers the overlap of those knowledges. So we have our content knowledge, which is about English and second language acquisition, particularly how it relates to our learners and their backgrounds. Then we also have our pedagogical knowledge, and this relates to teaching English and teaching language and facilitating activities which facilitate second language acquisition. And then we have technological knowledge. So that would be knowledge of which tech tools are effective, can be used with our students, so on and so forth. So we have these 3 distinct types of knowledge, but then also there's an overlap. And we are almost always using our pedagogical content knowledge in the classroom. And then we often have to bring in this technological aspect when we're bringing in tech tools. But AI is different from conventional digital technologies. So if you said AI is just another EdTech tool, it's not. It's not just another EdTech tool. It's different. But if you said it's different than using other educational technology in the classroom, then yes, that's correct. It's a little bit different. And AI is different from traditional digital technologies because it has the potential to reshape educational systems, societies. It also has ethical and social challenges inherent in the technology that we don't see in other technology. And because AI mimics human behaviors, it has an impact on human agency that other educational technologies do not. So it is important that we see AI as distinct from digital technologies. So while we always need to remember our TPAC framework, we should always be thinking about pedagogical knowledge, our content knowledge, our technological knowledge. Those are a very firm foundation for our use in the classroom. When we're talking about AI, we need additional competencies. And those additional competencies can be found in UNESCO AI Competency Framework for Teachers. And this framework defines the knowledge, skills, and values teachers must master to use AI. And again, this is in addition to TPAC. So we need our TPAC foundational knowledge, but on top of that, we need these competencies for AI. And there are 5 competencies involved in the AI competency framework for teachers. So we have our content knowledge, our pedagogical knowledge, our technological knowledge, and also the interaction of those. But because AI is distinct and requires additional competencies, we also have to consider a human-centered mindset, ethics of AI, foundations and applications of AI, AI pedagogy, and AI professional development. And just like TPAC, we see that there is actually an overlap between these competencies. So we have pedagogical content, technological knowledge, and we have pedagogical content knowledge, and we have pedagogical technological knowledge all over interacting, overlapping. It's the same thing with our AI teacher competencies. There is an overaction with them. AI foundations, our knowledge of that interacts with our understanding of how AI should be human-centered. And that overlaps with our understanding of AI pedagogy, how we implement AI in our classroom is influenced by what we know about foundations, and our professional development influences our understanding of a human-centered mindset, which also impacts our AI pedagogy. So there's a lot of things happening when we're talking about using AI in the classroom. We have our TPAC foundational knowledge, and then we have our 5 AI competencies that come into play. And this is why the question, is Gen AI the right tool, is really important. And it takes all of these knowledges to be able to answer yes or no. But in this webinar, we're going to cheat a little bit. And then I'm just going to tell you, yes, based on my TPAC knowledge and my fully developed 5 AI competencies for a teacher, that Gen AI is the right tool for 2 main tasks in the L2 writing classroom, and a few other ones as well. But then what's most, I think, kind of most exciting is when we use Gen AI for these 2 main tasks, we see additional activities that we can use in the classroom with our students. So AI can enhance our teaching because of the materials that it provides us, and then the things that we can do with those materials. Is everybody?
Dr. Bennett? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you also just turn on your presentation, because we don't see your presentation.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So yeah. That's okay. That's okay.
Have you just been looking at me the whole time?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh
That's
no.
fine. It happens. It's okay. Like, we could better understand these visuals, but everything was great. No worries. It was very interesting.
I
That's
have
fine.
share selected, so I'm not sure.
That's okay. That's okay. Now we can see your
Now
presentation.
I can see it. All right, let's start. Let's kind of start all over.
It's
Okay,
okay.
here. This is me. This is what I was talking about earlier. Some information about me personally and professionally. These are things that Gen AI can do. You've probably seen these, right? I'll give you a second to read these tasks, but I don't think any of these tasks will stick out at you. But then the question I asked was, can it do them well, and should it do them? Um, oh, that was the question. Then is Gen AI the right tool? Not always, sometimes. Educational technology criteria. Okay, this was the TPAC framework that I was talking about, right? Your pedagogical knowledge, your content knowledge, your technological knowledge, and then the overlap of all of them together. But then AI and digital technologies are distinct. They're not the same. So we need additional competencies on top of our TPAC. Our TPAC is always foundational, right? We need pedagogical knowledge, content knowledge, technological knowledge, and then their interaction or overlap. But because of the unique aspects of AI, we need additional competencies over the digital technologies. Okay. So this was the AI competency framework for teachers that should build on the TPAC: a human-centered mindset, ethics of AI, foundations and applications of AI, AI pedagogy, and AI for professional development. And just like TPAC overlaps, we see the overlap here with all 5 of our competencies. So our understanding of AI foundations influences our ability to apply AI effectively in the classroom, and our AI professional development enhances our ability to understand AI from a human-centered mindset, which also interacts with our ability to apply AI pedagogy in the classroom. So I think we're all caught up now. Are we on the same page? You see the visual? There is a prompt right away. These knowledges of our AI competency framework, building on top of our TPAC knowledge in order to answer this question. But for you, I have answered the question as yes, AI, Gen AI in particular, is the right tool for these two particular tasks, generating genre-based writing models and generating writing feedback. In particular, this tool can enhance two for generating writing feedback. But then also, I want to talk about activities that we then do in the classroom using these materials that we have generated. And then there's a couple of other, just a few additional things that can also be useful for us in the teaching of L2 writing. Okay, any questions now? All right. I'm really not able to monitor the chat. So if something comes up there, Nasiba or Zuhro, please let me know. Okay, so writing. Generating genre-based writing models is a very, very effective use of Gen AI when we are teaching L2 writing. And I have 3 examples that I used in my classroom that I want to walk you through. The first thing to talk about, though, is what does genre-based mean? Many of you might be familiar with the genre-based approach to writing. Essentially, a genre-based approach to writing means you're looking at any writing and you can define it according to its genre based on the moves that it employs and the linguistic features that it uses to accomplish those moves. And moves is kind of like another word for functions. So when you're writing a biography, there are certain moves or functions that are accomplished, and you use certain linguistic features to accomplish those moves. Same thing with a narrative or an opinion. Now, in my class, they're about B1 level. It's adult education. And so we're only writing paragraphs. So all of my examples are with paragraphs. But the same thing applies to longer pieces of writing as well. Actually, for one activity, I was working with some high B2, low C1 students in an academic context. And so the writing was a little bit more complicated, but most of the examples are pretty basic. But again, they can apply to even lower levels or even higher levels. So let's look at the first example of the biography. Okay, so this is a biography, a paragraph about Chantel Brown Young. And this paragraph actually comes we talked about, have you been bullied or what makes you bully people? We learned about this young lady who is a model who has a disease called vitiligo, and she experienced prejudice and bully from that. And there were discussions and vocabulary, but I also wanted to build on this unit to have my students write a biography about someone that they were interested in. So I had this one paragraph that they had read, this one biography that they had read, but if I wanted them to write their own biography, then they needed many more models, because I'm going to go back to my pedagogical knowledge about teaching writing. And in order to write, we need to be good readers and we need to read a lot of what we are writing. And I only had this one biography, so I needed more. I needed more biographies for my students to be able to read and analyze and edit to help with their practicing. And so this is where I have a genre pedagogical knowledge that I am using again, because I know that my students need models for learning to write. I know that the genre-based approach is effective for helping students understand what it is that they are supposed to write, and therefore doing an analysis, a genre-based analysis, can help my students. So a genre-based analysis looks something like this. You ask students, what is a biography? Okay. And then saying, okay, well, here's the biography that we just read. We find out, do we find out? And we can lead students to see that through that paragraph, they actually find 6 moves or 6 pieces of information about her. They're not random pieces of information, right? It introduces her, says why she's famous. It gives details about her early life. It talks a little bit about her childhood. It explains how she became famous. It talks about what she's doing now and summarizes what is important about her. So it's not random information that's included in a biography. It's really these 6 pieces of information that make up an important biography. And so by having students read, first we read the biography and do comprehension questions just to make sure they understand about her. And we talk about things, but once we move into writing instruction, then we are looking at how that paragraph accomplishes these 6 points. And then do some activities with that. Okay, which of the sentences in the paragraph corresponds to each particular move or each function? And then we also go and see what linguistic features are used. And there are many different linguistic features that we could focus on. This particular activity, we focused on tenses and past tense and present tense. So we're using past tense to talk about her early life, introducing her childhood, but then we're using present tense to talk about general truths and what she's doing now. And so when we go back and look at the moves, we can also identify the tense that is used to accomplish each move. Okay, so let me just transition here. What I needed was more models, more biographies for my students to read and analyze, because using my pedagogical content knowledge, I know that they need to do a lot of reading and some analysis in order to do their own writing. And this is where Gen AI is a very, very helpful tool. But also remember, we are writing genre-based models using Gen AI. So we have to have this particular knowledge here about the moves that are accomplished in order to have Gen AI generate effective models for us. Okay. So you're still seeing my screen, right? Okay. Actually, so I couldn't, I had some examples that, well, sorry, let me go back. For a narrative. So I had the biography, but I also had the narrative paragraph and the opinion paragraph. So we did the same thing, right? Students, I have like one example narrative for them, but I need them to read more. Or I have one opinion and I need them to read more. So I'm making use of the genre-based moves to go to Gen AI and ask it to create these models for me. Okay, so here's one for a narrative. Okay, so this is a timeline, a life timeline that was used to introduce students to the idea of a narrative. And these are instances on this person's timeline, things in their life, events that had happened. So I asked, this is GPT 4.0, I asked them if it can read this information on the graph. And yes, it can. You can read it. So then I ask it to choose one of the events. Here's my prompt right here. Choose one of the events from the timeline. Write a narrative paragraph that follows these parameters. So these parameters are the genre moves that I am teaching to my students that they are looking at when they are reading the example paragraphs. So introduce the event, provide background, describe the event, result, outcome, change, or lesson. And then again, here are those linguistic features. Use past, simple, progressive, and perfect, and time words and coordinators. Again, I'm building on my pedagogical content knowledge here. Time words and coordinators were grammar that we had worked on in class. So I want students to apply these to this narrative as well. Okay, so this is my prompt. I give it the moves, I give it the linguistic features, and I ask for the paragraph. So it gives me the paragraph on one of those particular events from the timeline. Now I wanted to write, I said, write another one based on a different event. So again, it follows the same structure. And I'm reading it, and it's okay. But one thing I notice is that it is not used or but, right? So I wanted it to use different past tense. I wanted it to use different time words, and I wanted it to use and or but. There are several instances of and, but there are not instances of or but. Now, one thing that we had learned in class is that and is the most frequent coordinator, but is used for specific purposes, and or isn't used very frequently, but it does have a specific purpose. So these weren't here, and I wanted students to be able to see their use. So I asked it to use or once and but twice in each paragraph. Okay, so it gives me my revision. And then also remember, I had asked it to use time words. It had used while, but that was the only one. I also, based on my content knowledge and what I had taught in class, I wanted it to also use the words when, before, and after. So I asked it to incorporate those words into the paragraph, both paragraphs. So it did this. And then, so I'm okay. So now we have the moves, we have the linguistic features, the tense, the time, words, the coordinators. So I have two examples, but when I read them, they look exactly the same, right? Like reading one, yes, they talk about different events, but they basically just look almost exactly the same. I want it to be a little bit different. So the additional prompt is to write the second example a little different than the first. For example, the first sentences in both are almost exactly the same. Change it up a little. Still use the parameters, but make it a little different, like two people followed the guidelines. Because our students, even if they do exactly what we ask, it's going to look a little bit different because as people, we're all a little bit different. So I wanted to add some of that distinction in these paragraphs. Okay, so it did that. Okay, so now I have two example paragraphs that I can use with my students. This really is going to make my teaching of writing much better because not only did students have one paragraph that we were able to examine, analyze for the functions, analyze for the moves, now we have two that students can look at and analyze and edit and use as a model. So this is really helping me. Also, it didn't take me very long. It wasn't perfect the first time, right? I had to guide the Gen AI a little bit. First of all, I had to tell it the moves to include. Right? So the first thing I had to do is use my pedagogical content knowledge to tell it how to write the paragraph that I wanted. Okay. Then I also had to use some prompt engineering knowledge from Gen AI about how to get it exactly what I wanted. But now that I do this, I have these additional examples that can make my teaching much more effective. As another step, I asked it to write a different event, but don't use all the criteria. Is make it like a halfway good paragraph. Okay, so this is not very good prompt engineering, right? What is a halfway good paragraph? I'm not even sure what a halfway good paragraph is. So how would the chatbot know how to make a halfway good paragraph? So there were some issues that I dealt with through here, but that was because I wasn't very clear. The better my prompts are, the better I can get exactly what I want. So it gives me this quote halfway good paragraph. And it says it's missing things like complex sentence structure, transitions, and full use of verb tenses. But actually, what I wanted was it not to accomplish all the moves. I wanted it to like leave out one or two moves, and I didn't want it to use time words. So I should have been more specific in my instructions. And what about the original parameters? Does it meet those? So it went back and showed me how it did or did not meet those. And so then I asked it for something different, like a student would turn in before revisions. And again, more specific prompting would have helped me out here. But now I have all these examples that I was able to use with students. And let me show you how I was able to use these examples. One is this was with a good summary response, right? So this is my instruction to students. This is my pedagogical content knowledge that I'm using for the genre and the moves used to write a good summary response. This is what students know. These are the guidelines that they are following to write a good summary response, okay? So when I ask the chatbot to write a summary response for me, these are the genre moves that I give to it. And then it gives me an example. Now, for this particular activity, it is read the 3 summary responses, analyze them, which one is best and why. And what I have here is a strong student response. So students who had done this in a previous semester, I got a really strong response, and I put that there. The second one is a weak student response. Okay, so a student had done this in a previous semester. It wasn't that great, but they had tried. And then I had the response generated by ChatGPT. And now students don't know this. All students know is that they are reading 3 summary responses. They are thinking about the genre moves and the requirements that go into a good summary response, and they are evaluating them. And they are supposed to rank them best, worst, and then in the middle. And they have a strong student response, a weak student response, and then the generated response. And there were I had 14 students in class, and they worked in pairs. And so seven pairs total. 6 of the pairs ranked the AI generated response as the worst. They ranked the strong student response as the best. They ranked the AI generated response as the worst. And that's because they could tell that it wasn't as detailed and as personal, because even though I'm able to give it the moves, and even though I give it the linguistic features, it still doesn't capture all of the knowledge that the strong student and even the weak student response had from being in class and being under instruction. So this is a good activity for a couple of reasons. One of which is it shows students that a chatbot doesn't generate perfect writing. The grammar was perfect, right? The grammar was perfect, but it didn't perfectly match the good summary response like the strong student, because the chat wasn't in the class. It didn't have that exact knowledge and experience that's gained by the student when they are in the class. So it shows that even non-perfect grammar that follows the class rules, that uses the knowledge and experiences gained in class, can be better than what a chat does. So that's a very informative for students, and can encourage them not to rely on a chatbot to write their things too much. Another example is using editing. So this is with the opinion paragraph. Okay, so these were the genre moves in the opinion paragraph. I'm sorry about the about the lawn mowing. Hopefully you can still hear me. These are the moves for, first you state your opinion, then you support your argument, then you give an explanation for your argument, then you restate your opinion. But you do this multiple times, right? So the first sentence is your opinion, the second sentence is your supporting argument, the third sentence is an explanation. The fourth sentence is a supporting argument, the fifth sentence is an explanation. And then you have your concluding sentence. Okay, so these are the genre moves students have learned. These are the genre moves that I gave to the chatbot. Also, this is particular language that it should be used. So in the first sentence, when you give your opinion, you should use this kind of language. When you are introducing your supporting arguments, you should use this kind of language, right? When you are giving an explanation for the argument, you should use this kind of language. When you are giving your concluding sentence, you should use this kind of language. Also, in an opinion paragraph, we're mostly using simple present tense. So this is the genre knowledge. This is my pedagogical content knowledge that I have about genres and writing opinion paragraphs. This is the opinion paragraph that students have read, and I want them to do more work to analyze it, but I need more paragraphs. And it's hard as teachers to write sample paragraphs. It can take a long time. It's kind of like just a heavy cognitive load. But if we have our pedagogical content knowledge, we have the moves, we have the linguistic features, we have good prompt engineering, we can put this into the chatbot and have it write for us. And then we can use examples for analysis and editing, which is what I did here. Okay, so here, this is the example. Okay, write an opinion of 5 to 7 sentences. The paragraph should follow this outline and use this language, okay? In this particular unit, we were talking about if Shakespeare's plays were racist or sexist. So I had it generate one example where Shakespeare's plays are racist and sexist. And then I had it write an opinion that they are not racist and sexist. In this way, I had examples to show students of both the opinion for and the opinion against, so that they could see an example of both. Also, I improved my prompt engineering skills. Even though I did say you should make some mistakes, I specified make mistakes in the organization. Okay, so I told it more specifically. Okay, all right. So then for students, sorry. Okay, here is another paragraph, a new example paragraph that they have not seen before. So I show them, here is this paragraph. Let's edit it to see if it's good, because editing is a very, very effective skill in writing. Again, this is my pedagogical knowledge that I'm using. I want students to be able to increase their autonomy and increase their writing skills by having them edit paragraphs. Also, we're using that analyzing skill as well. So I have an editing form that I have them work with. This is for the biography, but does the biography say why the person is famous? Does it talk about the person's childhood? Does it explain, remember all of the moves, they're here. Is it accomplishing these moves? And then there are specific instructions that go along with it. So here's one of those sample biographies that I asked ChatGPT to write for me. And then I use this as an example to walk students through, because I know from my pedagogical knowledge that students need practice editing. It can increase their autonomy, but also there need to be a lot of instructions and a lot of practice, a lot of modeling. So because I have these additional paragraphs that Chat was able to write for me, I can, first of all, walk students through this. So we went through this question by question, and then following all the examples so that they could see this is how you edit and this is what it looks like. Then I have another one that's halfway good, that they edit, and then they can see that the things aren't good. So then we can practice improving it. Okay, we see this is not so great, this is not so great. How can we improve it? So basically, it's giving me more information to more instructional tools for my students, because I was able to give the chat genre-based moves and linguistic features. It was able to provide me fairly easily with additional models that I could then use for analysis and editing activities and make my overall instruction much more effective, and also allow my students to do better writing because they had better instructional knowledge. Okay, okay, this is editing. So we generate genre-based models. Then we can do editing and analysis activities. This is a YouTube video that has me explaining this activity. So if you wanted to go back and see it again, or in slow motion or something, you could follow this link here. Also, another thing that we can, I'm just going to do really quickly talk about this. We could also ask it to generate writing feedback for our students. But this is student-led, not teacher-led, right? This is in addition to teacher giving feedback. So an example assignment that I did this with was I asked the students, this is the assignment. After you have incorporated feedback from your first draft, from my feedback, and after you have worked on cohesion, which was the grammar point we were looking at, get with your favorite chatbot, ask it to provide feedback on your draft. The students had already received feedback from me. This was the final step. Get feedback from the chatbot on your draft. Review the feedback, decide which suggestions you will implement and which ones you will ignore. So I'm giving students a lot of choice here. Create a shared link for your conversation, and then write a short reflection. Okay, so one of the things that we have to be conscious about, well, there are many, but one of them that we have to be conscious about when we are asking students to engage with Gen AI is being conscious about the cognitive processes. We don't want our students to rely on the chatbot to do the cognitive processes. So yes, we can ask it to provide feedback on the draft, but then we still want our students to engage. So by asking them to write a reflection that shows, I choose to keep this feedback and implement it, but I don't choose to use this feedback, and this is why, then we are still cognitively engaging them with their own writing. We've already given them feedback, okay? So the teacher has already fulfilled her responsibility to give feedback to the students, but we're actually providing students with another way to give feedback beyond what the teacher can provide. So sort of giving them more access to information, increasing their autonomy, but then we're still cognitively engaging them by asking to write a reflection. So overall, this is if done using these particular parameters, and these particular parameters involve my pedagogical content knowledge, it can be effective. And here's an example of a reflection. Okay, so the student sent the link to the chat, and really I just want this as accountability. I don't really read all of this. I just want to see that they haven't asked it to write the whole thing for them. I just want conversation. And then this is the reflection. And so you can see that they reflected on what feedback they kept, why they kept it, what feedback they decided not to keep, and why they decided not to keep it. So again, there's a lot of still cognitive engagement going on. Grammar logs are another effective activity that we can have our students do. If we mark that grammar is not correct in some of our students' writing, we can let students use a chatbot to correct the sentences for them, but then they have to analyze why, like what was wrong. Okay, so here, this is, please fix the grammar in this sentence. Okay, so this was the sentence that was wrong. It gave it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT corrected it. But again, we still need cognitive engagement from the students. So what the student then does is analyze, this is what was wrong to begin with. This is how it fixed it. So by looking at the incorrect sentence, comparing it to the correct sentence, then they can see where the mistake is, and they can keep a log of this. This allows students to have more interaction with the language than we as the teacher could provide them, especially if you have 50 students or 100 students or 200 students, right? You, as much as you would love to, you just cannot humanly take time to provide a corrected sentence for every single error in for your students in their writing. But it can still be very good for them to interact with the language and to cognitively engage in this way. And so this is something that chatbot can do for them. But again, we're holding them cognitively responsible by requiring them to analyze what the difference is between the incorrect and the correct version. And then if students keep a log of these, then they can begin to see the kind of mistakes they normally make, and they can over and over see corrections for those and then be able to implement them more into their writing. Also, you can keep a track and you can look and see, 10 of 20 students have problems with this particular grammar structure. So then you can identify that as something for you to cover in class. Or, only 1 of 25 students struggles with this grammar issue. So maybe you prepare some extra materials for that student, but you don't spend time on that in class. Again, that makes your instruction much more effective and efficient. There's one more resource I wanted to share with you. It's generative AI in writing class. So this is like a guide. What is allowed? So the gray areas are things that you can use writing for, or to help a chatbot to help you with writing. And the notes say that this use results in better writing and should be encouraged. The yellow ones are with caution. There's some things to consider. And then the red ones are do not use AI to help you with this particular writing. And I can share this bigger document resource with you. I also have a resource document that I can share with you that goes over more step-by-step for doing each of these activities. Okay, so is Gen AI the right tool for these tasks? Yes, it can do things if we are using our pedagogical content knowledge to effectively engineer prompts with the genre moves and the linguistic features. It can allow us to get more models for our students that we can then use for more effective teaching activities. It can also, if we make our students still cognitively engaged through reflection and keeping logs, then it can give our students more opportunities to interact and learn from the language. So we have to use our TPAC knowledge. We have to use our AI competencies on top of that. But if we're using all of that together, then Gen AI can help us teach L2 writing more effectively. I think that's all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bennett. It was really interesting. And I can see so many, comments and so many questions in the chat box. And yeah, trust me, the topic of AI is super exciting and super interesting because nowadays, both students and teachers, learning this in the most effective way to employ it in the classroom. And therefore, to some extent, students are, exceeding our expectation in using AI. And I think that the role of teachers should also be, very effective in using AI so we can just, direct students in a proper way. All right, thank you so much. And I can see so many questions from Fernanda. So Fernanda, yeah, if you can unmute yourself and yes, because I believe during the during the presentation, you already yes. Oh, okay. So because you asked so many questions and I was wondering which one should I just, start first? Because I guess that Dr. Bennett responded to some of the questions already. But anyway, yes, maybe I'll ask your last question. Yes, okay. So, all right, let me scroll. Yes, So, okay, Fernanda is asking, uh, yeah, just, comments, questions, yes, they are kind of, yes, they are mixed. So the question is, using AI to produce writing task is very tricky issue. Do we want our students to write and get involved in the creative writing courses, or do we want AI to write for the student? How can we avoid this? What can we do to be sure our students are writing their tasks?
Well, one way that you can do this is to use that analysis activity where you show the strong student writing, the weak student writing, and the generated GPT writing. And if students for themselves rank the GPT writing as the worst, then that shows them clearly that they can do a better job using their experiences as humans, as students in your classroom. They can do a better job than GPT can. And that's one very effective way to discourage students from using the chatbot to write for them. Also, though, I think that when we tell students we are going to use Gen AI, but we're going to use it for these particular purposes because this is where it's most helpful. If they know that they're going to use it, it might make them less likely to want to use it at the beginning, and they might be more willing to wait to use it until you give them the instructions. And then when you give them the instructions for reflection and for keeping logs, then we're making sure that they're staying cognitively engaged and using it in a way that helps them rather than just detracts from their own learning.
Yeah, thank you so much. I completely agree with you. Yes, because again, as we just using AI further, I believe so many recommendations will come up because we learn from the patterns that the students are using, yes, AI, and also just, it gives us, more feedback on how we should further guide them through using AI. Thank you so much. And also we have several questions from Guzal. Guzal, yeah, if you can unmute yourself and ask question because we are coming to the end of our webinar and I really don't want, to use this time just to, maybe you can just sum up some of your questions and ask your questions. Go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, dear colleagues. Good evening, Nasiba Khonapa. Good evening, Gena Bennet. I have a question about what is the difference between using ready-made AI materials and collaborative text generation with students?
What is the difference between me doing as a teacher to make these materials and doing it with the students? Well, I think Well, there are different purposes, right? I would do it myself to create my teaching materials, which students don't need to be part of that process. Although the biographies that I asked it to generate, I chose most of the students in that class are Hispanic students. And so the example biographies that I asked GPT to generate were on Isabel Allende and Pedro Pascal. Those are two very, very popular figures in my class with those Hispanic students. And so I very specifically chose those people based on my student interest. So I'm sort of collaborating with them by taking their interest into hand when I asked the GPT to generate it. But I think the activities where I'm asking students to use a chatbot, I think those are collaborative because I am guiding them on A, which tasks will really support them, and B, on how to do those particular tasks. So I gave them very specific instructions. Share the link, look at the feedback, choose the feedback, or in the other case, ask the chatbot to give you the correction, identify what was wrong, and then keep a log of it. So I feel like that's kind of a collaboration in that I am engaging them in the tasks that are effective, and then also giving them instructions that make sure that they effectively engage in those tasks. Because teachers, we can use Gen AI ineffectively. We can use it for the wrong tasks, and so can our students. But if we understand when Gen AI is the right tool, and when we understand how students can benefit from it, and then we share that knowledge with them through assignments, I think that's sort of a form of collaboration. Is that what you mean?
Oh, thank you. It's very useful information for me. Thank you, Dr. Bennett. And the second question, what do you think writing textbooks will look like in 10 years, taking AI into account?
So if you go back near the beginning of the presentation, I listed many things that Gen AI can do. But the question was, can AI do them well? And should AI do them? I could do a 4-hour webinar to answer this question. But the short answer is there are still many, many things where Gen AI is not the right tool. And there are still many, many things where Gen AI is the right assistant for the teacher, but the expertise of the teacher is still necessary. So, or the materials writer, because materials writers have their own expertise as well. And so while to some extent there are tasks that Gen AI can help us with as teachers, they still 100% require our teacher expertise. And that's right now. 10 years, I don't know. The technology changes so quickly. I don't know what it's going to look like in 10 years, but I can tell you right now that there's no way for Gen AI to, on its own, effectively generate materials to use with students. There are a limited number of tasks that it can do well for language teaching, and the expertise of the teacher is always required even to do those tasks. Like generating writing models. Yes, it can serve as an assistant for the teacher. It can take off a lot of time, a cognitive load of writing those examples, but it can only write them if I use my pedagogical content knowledge for genre-based writing. I'm still needed as the teacher to give it my expertise.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. I'm so really appreciative. Thank you, Mr. Bochoyev. I really proud that I'm a member of English for Arts. I'm proud of you. Thank you, us. Thank you, dear colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you, Guzan. And we also have Samsung SM, like, we don't know your name. Could you please unmute yourself and ask your question? But please do it very briefly because we are running after it. Hello?
Okay. Hello, dear Malimajon. Do I continue? Okay,
Yes, please go ahead.
So much. Thank you so much. I really liked your presentation, dear the esteemed professor. I have one question. How often do you use AI during your teaching? And the next question, first of all, do you modulate the instruction for your students? Or maybe you will share the clear instruction to your students?
Well, the only time I've used AI to actually create materials are this and to generate role plays for students. because that's an instance when students need a lot of practice, like doing a role play, and it can be cognitively difficult for the teacher to come up with the different scenarios. And so I've had success with that. For the most part, I use AI only occasionally, but it's when I get stuck. So if I'm like, I don't know, like, here's this reading, what kind of activity could I do? And I might give a chatbot the reading and say, what activity could I do with this? Most of the time, I find that the chatbot answers are not very good. And I'm like, well, that's a dumb activity. And then it sort of inspires me to think of something better. And I'm like, well, that's a dumb activity. I can come up with something better. And then it helps me get the ball rolling. But if I'm tired and I'm like up against a wall and I feel like I can't think, if I ask the chatbot to like kind of help me brainstorm or think, I almost never ever use the activities it suggests. They're usually not very good, but they start me thinking. They start me brainstorming. They get the ball rolling. It inspires me to be better than the chatbot because I am the expert. That's how I've used it a lot of times. Sometimes I do the same thing with comprehension questions. I faced with this reading, and I'm like, I don't know what questions to ask. And so I do the same thing. I put it in the chat bot and I say, what are 5 comprehension questions? Most of the time, the questions aren't very good. And I'm like, well, those are dumb questions. But it inspires me to then think, oh, I know I can do better than this. Or, okay, that's a good topic, but that's a terribly written question. And so it just is sort of like an assistant to me. So, like someone to help me get the ball rolling and to inspire me to kind of get past that wall or past that hump where I feel like I can't go on. That is how I have used it most often to remind me that I'm the expert and I'm better.
Yeah, exactly. That's very clear that you are always, try to kind
Thank
of,
you so
to be
much.
one step ahead of AI. That's true. Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Bennett. It was super interesting and super practical. And we also have very positive comments in the chat box. And thank you so much for sharing your materials. We'll share it in our Telegram group with the audience. And all the, kudos goes to you because like everybody likes your webinar. And again, using this moment, we would like to extend our official gratitude to you, Dr. Bennett, for such an interesting session. And of course, we'll be happy to see you over and over, in EWB Thursday webinars. And once again, thank you so much, dear audience, for staying active and also just for engaging and for also investing your time for your professional development. We highly appreciate everybody's attendance and to make this webinar very engaging and also very practical by asking your questions and also, sharing from your own experience. Special thanks to our speaker. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, and Dr. Bennett, have a great day ahead.
Thank
See
you.
you.